Your boss interrupts you 5 times a day, asking for your opinion on everything. Hey, quick question about the client report. Can you look at this real quick? What do you think about this proposal? They don't prepare. They don't schedule. They treat your expertise like a vending machine, always available, always free. Here's how to stop it in 30 days. Next time your manager asks for your input, say this exact phrase. I can give you my analysis Thursday at 2 p.m. I'm deep in the quarterly projections right now. That's it. Nothing more. Watch what happens. Their brain immediately shifts from taking you for granted to respecting your boundaries. They start preparing better questions within 2 weeks. Random interruptions drop by 70%. The requests that remain are high-value problems only you can solve. This works because of Machiavelli's Scarcity Principle. The human brain assigns value based on availability. When you're always accessible, you're background noise. When you're selectively available, you become valuable. Scarcity triggers perceived value automatically. The harder you are to access, the more valuable you become. Machiavelli observed this 500 years ago. The prince who appears for trivial matters loses respect. The prince who appears for significant matters commands attention. This applies to your career right now. I'm going to show you 6 specific principles that make you irreplaceable without working harder. Strategic withdrawal, knowledge gatekeeping, selective availability, expertise positioning, controlled dependence, and how to defend yourself when others weaponize these tactics against you. By the end, you'll know exactly how to position yourself as essential. Let's start with Principle 1. Principle 1. Strategic withdrawal. Strategic withdrawal dominates workplace perception. Here's exactly how to use it. You've been the go-to person for solving technical problems in your department. Every small issue, people come to you. You're helpful, responsive, always available. Stop. Next time someone approaches with a minor problem, don't solve it immediately. Instead, say this: I'm blocking focus time for the system redesign. Check the documentation I created last month. Section 3 covers this. If it's still unclear after that, send me a detailed email and I'll review it. Friday. Here's what happens. They solve it themselves using your documentation. When they do come back, their questions are sharper and more prepared. Your expertise becomes a resource they must earn access to, not a convenience they consume freely within 2 weeks. Casual requests drop by 70%. The requests that remain. High-value problems only you can solve. Why this works. The human brain interprets scarcity as quality. When you're always available, you're background noise. When you withdraw strategically, you become a signal they notice. They mistake your selective presence for superiority, and they're right. You've trained them that your time has conditions attached. But here's what most people miss. Withdrawal without demonstrated value looks like incompetence. You must establish expertise first, then restrict access. If you withdraw before proving worth, you're just unavailable. If you withdraw after proving worth, you're exclusive. The sequence determines whether it works or backfires. Now let's look at when not to use this, because timing determines whether it dominates or destroys you. Principle 2. Timing and application. Knowing strategic withdrawal isn't enough. Timing determines whether it works or exposes you. Use strategic withdrawal when you've established clear expertise. After you've solved 3 major problems others couldn't, proven your unique value, and created documented systems others can reference for basic issues. When people take your availability for granted, colleagues interrupt you for information they could find themselves, or your calendar fills with low-value meetings that don't require your specific skills. When your workload exceeds capacity, you're spending 60% of your time answering questions and only 40% doing high-impact work that showcases your irreplaceable abilities. Never use strategic withdrawal when you're new to a role or organization. Why? You haven't built the credibility that makes scarcity valuable. Withdrawal reads as arrogance or laziness, not exclusivity, during genuine emergencies or crises. Why? Strategic withdrawal in a crisis makes you look unreliable. When the organization needs everyone present, you lose trust permanently with direct superiors or key stakeholders. Why? Withdrawing from those who control your career trajectory signals disengagement. They have the power to replace you, making your scarcity irrelevant. The most common mistake: withdrawing completely instead of strategically. This backfires because total unavailability makes you obsolete, not valuable. Organizations route around people they can't access. You become a bottleneck they eliminate. Instead, create structured availability, office hours, scheduled consultation blocks, clear systems for urgent versus non-urgent requests. You're not unavailable. You're organized. This frames scarcity as professionalism, not ego. When you're too busy for a low-priority meeting, say this: "I'm focused on the Q4 deliverables this week. Can we schedule this for next Tuesday?" This frames unavailability as prioritization, not laziness. This leads to something even more powerful. What happens when someone uses this technique on you? Principle 3. Counter tactics and defense. What happens when someone uses strategic withdrawal on you? Here's how to recognize and neutralize it. You'll know they're using it when you notice sudden unavailability from someone previously accessible. Check with my assistant responses where they used to engage directly, scheduled blocks for conversations that used to happen spontaneously. The moment you spot these patterns, you have the advantage. Counter move 1. Document their expertise externally. When someone makes themselves scarce to increase perceived value, you reduce their monopoly by capturing their knowledge in systems, templates, or cross-training others. If a developer withdraws to seem more valuable, you record their solutions in a shared knowledge base. Their scarcity loses power when their expertise becomes accessible without them. Counter move 2. Develop alternative sources. Strategic withdrawal only works if they're the sole solution. The moment you cultivate backup expertise, either in other people or through learning it yourself, their leverage collapses. They're not scarce anymore. They're optional. Counter move 3. Call it out with strategic framing. When someone uses scarcity on you, say this: "I respect your focusing on high-value work. To keep things moving, I'm setting up alternative channels. Let me know if you want to stay in the loop." This calls out their game without confrontation. Real scenario: a colleague suddenly becomes too busy to share information about client relationships you need for a project. You respond by going directly to the clients yourself with this framing: "I'm coordinating with the team on your account. I want to make sure we're aligned on priorities. What's most important to you right now?" You've bypassed their artificial scarcity and built the relationship yourself. Their gatekeeping becomes irrelevant because you control the information flow now. Their technique becomes their weakness because they assumed you'd wait for their availability instead of routing around them. Now let's move to the advanced strategy that separates beginners from masters. Principle 4. Knowledge gatekeeping. Once you master the basics, here's how to use knowledge gatekeeping for maximum impact. Information fragmentation with integration dependency. Instead of hoarding knowledge, share it generously, but structure it so only you understand the complete picture. Here's how this works in high-stakes situations. You're leading a cross-functional initiative with budget implications. Multiple departments need your analysis to make decisions. Instead of distributing one comprehensive report, you create 3 separate briefing documents, each containing accurate information specific to that department's needs, but none containing the full strategic picture. You schedule individual meetings with each department head. In each meeting, you present their specific briefing. You answer questions thoroughly. You appear helpful and transparent. But the connections between documents, the strategic insights that emerge only when you see all 3 data sets together, those you keep verbal. You mention them in passing, never documented. Each department thinks they have complete information, but when they try to coordinate without you, contradictions appear. Budget priorities seem misaligned. Timelines conflict. They need you in the room to reconcile the pieces. You haven't withheld anything. You've structured information so that synthesis requires your presence. What separates beginners from masters? Beginners refuse to share information directly, creating obvious gatekeeping that breeds resentment. Masters share information generously but structure it so that understanding requires their interpretation. They're not blocking access. They're making themselves the integration layer, the difference. Beginners create scarcity through refusal. Masters create scarcity through architecture. One makes you look territorial. The other makes you look essential. Machiavelli understood this. Those who control information flow control decisions, even without formal authority. You don't hoard knowledge. You architect its distribution so integration requires your presence. This brings us to the psychological mechanism that makes all of this work. Principle 5. Psychological mechanism. Why does the scarcity principle work? Here's the psychology most people never learn. Your brain processes availability through the scarcity heuristic. When you encounter something difficult to obtain, your brain interprets difficulty as a quality signal. Result: you assign higher value to scarce resources than abundant ones, even when objective quality is identical. This happens because evolutionary psychology wired humans to compete for limited resources. Scarcity triggers status competition automatically. Machiavelli observed this centuries ago. Selective presence carries more weight than constant visibility. When leaders appear for trivial matters, familiarity breeds contempt. When they appear for significant matters, each appearance commands attention. Most people never discover this because social conditioning teaches that helpfulness means constant availability. We're trained to equate responsiveness with competence, creating a trap where accessibility diminishes value. Misunderstanding power dynamics. Most believe power comes from doing more, when it actually comes from being needed for specific, irreplaceable things. Volume of contribution matters less than uniqueness of contribution. Fear of seeming difficult. People avoid strategic scarcity because they worry about being perceived as uncooperative, not realizing that organizations value people they need, not people they like. Those who understand this operate differently. They recognize that irreplaceability isn't about working harder. It's about controlling the perception of your necessity. Now here's how to integrate everything into a complete system. Principle 6. Integration and Mastery. Here's how to integrate all 6 principles into a daily practice system. All 6 principles connect through one core pattern: controlled dependency without resentment. Strategic withdrawal establishes that your time has conditions. Knowledge gatekeeping ensures your expertise can't be easily replicated. Selective availability makes people compete for access. Together, they form invisible architecture. You're not blocking access, you're directing traffic. Daily practice system: morning. Review your calendar and identify 3 commitments that don't require your unique expertise. Delegate 1, decline 1, restructure 1 into asynchronous communication. This trains others that your synchronous time has a quality threshold throughout the day. Practice the 3-second rule before responding to requests. Count to 3, then evaluate. Does this require my specific expertise? Is this urgent or just convenient for them? Can this be solved with existing documentation? Colleague asks for your opinion in Slack. Wait 3 seconds. Assess if it's truly your domain. Meeting invitation arrives. Pause. Check if your attendance is necessary or ceremonial. Quick question interrupts your focus. Breathe. Determine if immediate response adds value. Evening. Analyze 3 interactions where you provided help. Ask, did I make myself more valuable or more available? Did I solve their problem or teach them to solve it themselves? Did I create a dependency that serves my goals? Within 30 days, you'll notice people prepare better before approaching you. Requests for your time decrease in volume but increase in value. Your expertise becomes a resource others must justify accessing. You've shifted from helpful to essential. Common mistakes when beginning. Mistake 1. Withdrawing too quickly before establishing value. Why it fails. You look incompetent or lazy, not strategic. How to avoid. Spend your first 90 days being generously available while documenting your expertise. Then gradually structure your accessibility. Mistake 2. Being scarce for all people uniformly. Correct approach. Maintain high availability for decision makers and key stakeholders. Your scarcity should be tiered, restricted for general requests, accessible for strategic relationships. Mistake 3. Creating scarcity without building alternatives. Why it fails. If you're unavailable and there's no system for people to get unstuck, you become a bottleneck the organization removes. Correct alternative. As you withdraw, create documentation, templates, or train others to handle routine issues. True irreplaceability isn't about being the only person who can do something. It's about being the only person who can do it at the level the organization requires, while making your absence felt immediately when you're not involved. Remember, scarcity creates value that availability destroys. Strategic withdrawal beats constant presence. Knowledge architecture beats knowledge hoarding. Controlled dependency beats martyrdom. When you control access to yourself and structure how your expertise flows, you don't just become valuable. You become the standard by which value is measured. Others might replicate your skills, but they can't replicate the dependency you've architected. Real value whispers through scarcity. It never announces through availability. The moment everyone can access you freely is the moment you become replaceable. Make them earn you. If this changed how you see workplace dynamics, hit like now. Drop your biggest insight in the comments. Which principle will you use first? Share this with someone who's being taken for granted at work. Next video, the mirror strategy. How to make others reveal their intentions while you remain invisible.